um, on the Rusty the King channel. So we're gonna work on it. I had a taste for Mexican food, so I ordered some Mexican food called Taco Juniors. I used to do I used to go out. I used to order a lot of Mexican food called from a place called Taco Depot, which is in Indiana. But because I moved to Illinois, there is no Taco Depot out here unless they decide to expand the business, which they haven't yet. So right here, I have not had an enchilada in a while, so I ordered an enchilada dinner. You can see you got the enchilada with the beans, and then I got fries with steak, meat, and cheese, and then a cup of elotes. Usually I do a large, but this time I did a small because I don't want to spend a whole lot of money on a lot of stuff like that. But what I want to get into, besides that, and then I got my Pepsi with me, and then they gave me only two sauces, one mild and one hot to put on the enchilada. But anyway, so I want to get into the video that I want to talk about. Um, the last I just finished Wishmaster 3. I saw the first three. Now I'm on the fourth one, which I got on hold for right now. But I want to do my own little video about what the Jinn are, which is what the movie Wishmaster was based on. Um, so the Jinn um, is like a genie that's evil. Um, so basically, hold on here. Oh, there we go. Okay. Didn't even notice that. Let's see. Can you guys hear me now? I didn't realize it was muted. Um, um, somebody said it was muted, so I think I am unmuted now. Can anybody hear me? Um, um, okay. I'm new to the live streaming on the Rusty the King channel. Okay. I got Mexican food that I ordered. Um, yeah, I don't want to have to restart the video because I was muted for the first few minutes. I didn't even realize I was. Um, but I got Mexican food that I had ordered before. So it's been a while since I had an enchilada dinner, so I have enchilada with rice and beans. The rice is buried underneath the beans. Then I got my cup of elotes, which I love that, and then my steak fries with cheese, and my can of soda. But what we're going to talk about today is a few days ago, I got done watching Wishmaster 3. There's four of them, and Wishmaster is based on a genie that's evil, and I want to get more into talking about that because it's actually good to know the stuff. So, the Jinn is also Romanized as the Jinn, or Anglicized as genies. They're invisible creatures in early pre-Islamic Arabia and later in Islamic culture and belief. Like humans, they are accountable for their deeds, and they can either be believers, meaning under the Muslim cult tradition, or the unbelievers under the Kafir tradition, depending on whether they accept God's guidance or not. The Jinn are neither evil or good, but in the movie Wishmaster they portrayed him as evil. Islamic culture acknowledged spirits from other religions, and that they could adapt them during other religions, and they could adapt them during its expansion. Now, the jinn are not a strictly Islamic concept, basically, um, but they may represent several pagan beliefs integrated into Islamic culture. Um, now Islam places the jinn and humans on the same plane in relation to God, both being subject to God's judgment in an afterlife. Now the Quran condemns the pre-Islamic Arabian practice of worshiping or seeking protection from them. Um, Now, although they're usually invisible, the jinn are supposed to be composed of thin and subtle bodies, and they can change their appearance at will. Now, the jinn favor a snake form, but they can okay. Let's see if I sorry. So now the jinn favor a snake form, but they can also appear. They can also choose to appear as scorpions, lizards, or a human form. They may even engage in sexual affairs with humans, and and possibly could produce offspring. Now, if they are injured by someone, they usually seek revenge or possess the assailant's body, and it requires an exorcism. Now, um, the jinn rarely meddle in human affairs, preferring to live with their own kind and tribes similar to those of the pre-Islamic Arabia. Now, any individual jinn appear on charms and talismans, and they are called upon for protection or magical aid, often under the leadership of a king. Many people who believe in the jinn wear amulets to protect themselves against the assault of the jinn, sent out by sorcerers and witches. A commonly held belief is that jinn cannot hurt someone who wears something with the name of God written on it. Now, while some scholars in the past had ambivalent attitudes toward the jinn, contemporary Muslim scholarship increasingly associate jinn with adultery, um, or idolatry, or whatever you want to call it. Um, Now, the jinn is an Arabic collective noun deriving from the Semitic root with the word Jann, and it means primarily, and the primary meaning is to hide or to adapt. Um, some authors interpret the word to mean literally beings that are concealed from the senses, and the cognate includes the Arabic. I am doing pretty good. It's good to see a lot of people on the chat. Hello, was that TB? Okay, yep, I can see you loud and clear. Now, some authors, like I said, like nobody really knows how the word jinn came to be. Nobody knows the exact origin, and it remains uncertain. But the word cognates include the Arabic called I'm not sure how you say it. Majnun. Since I'm not Arabic and my Arabic sucks. It's Majnun, but they got that little hyphen over the U, so I don't know how you exactly pronounce that. But it means possessed or generally insane. Jannah, which means garden, Eden, or heaven. And the Janin means embryo. The jinn is properly treated as a plural, however, in classical Arabic, it may also appear as Jan, like Jann, with the singular being Jinni, with Ji. How old am I? I will be 37 in June. Or not, and I don't look it. Even though I am 30, I'm going to be 37, but I don't look it anyway. Which the English word genie is derived from. So basically, the word genie, like Genie, is based off of that. As I already said, nobody knows how the jinn came to be, and so now some scholars relate the Arabic term jinn to the Latin term a guardian spirit of people and places in Roman religion. As a result of syncretism during the reign of the Roman Empire under Tiberius and Augustus, however, this derivation is also disputed. Now, supporters argue that both Roman genie as well as Arabian jinn are considered to be lesser deities, including inhabiting local sanctuaries. Now, basically they prefer trees or springs and persons or family. Now, the Aramaic Janiah, with the meaning of tutelary deity or guardian, are attributed to similar functions and are another possible origin of the term. Um, to the term jinn. Now, another suggestion holds that the word is of Persian origin and appeared in the form of the Avistic Jani, meaning a wicked female spirit. Now, the Janai, or Jani, I don't know how you would say it, Jaini, like I said, they're among various creatures in the possibly even Zoroastrian mythology of the people of Iran. Now, the Munzik advocates a purely Arabic origin of the term, asserting that according to the common Semitic view, psychic and bodily affections are caused by spirits. Um, an object reacting upon such an effect would be an incarnation of said spirits, but since these spirits are covered from the sight of humans, they would have been called jinn. Now, don't want my food to get cold either while I'm doing this. Got some steak fries. That's not bad. Okay. Now, the anglicized form genie is a borrowing of the French word genie. Like when it's spelled Genie, it's a French word, and it's also from the Latin genius. It first appeared in 18th century culture and translations of the Thousands and One Nights from the 1706 French edition, where it had been used owing to its rough similarity in sound and sense and further appeals, and that applies to benevolent intermediary spirits. In contrast to the malevolent spirits called demon and mostly benevolent heavenly angels in literature. In Assyrian art, the modern term used for creatures ontologically between humans and divinities is also a genie. Even though it's not a precise fit, descriptive analogies that have been used for these begin in Western thought, and that includes demon, spirit, sprite, and fairy, depending on whatever source you want to use. Now, in turn, the Arabic translations for the Greek nymph, Arusa, is also used for jinn by Middle Eastern sources. Although the term spirit is frequently used, it's been criticized for not capturing the corporeal nature of the jinn, and that the term genie should be used instead. Now, the exact origin or belief of the jinn are not entirely clear, but the belief in jinn in the pre-Islamic Arab religion is testified not only by the Quran, but also by pre-Islamic Arabic poetry. Now, some scholars of the Middle East hold that they originated as malevolent spirits residing in deserts and unclean places, but who often took the forms of animals. Others hold that they were originally pagan nature deities who gradually became marginalized as other deities took greater importance. Now, the jinn were already worshipped by many Arabs in pre-Islamic Arabia. Now, Julius Wellhausen observed that jinn were often thought to inhabit or haunt desolate, dark, and dingy places in the desert. Now, for that reason, they were held responsible for various diseases and mental illnesses. Now Julius Wellhausen observed that jinn were often thought to inhabit or haunt desolate places, which that's what they made it look like in their culture. But in the movie, they went opposite of it. Now, somebody named Savage Schmitz asserts that malicious jinn and good gods were distinct in pre-Islamic Arabia, but admits that such distinction is not absolute. In the regions of in the regions north to the Hejaz, um, Palmyra, and Baalbek, the terms jinn and ayla, which often means deity, were often used interchangeably. Now Julius Wellhausen likewise agrees that in pre-Islamic Arabia it was assumed that there were at least some friendly and helpful beings among the jinn. He distinguishes between a god and a jinni not on the basis of morality but on the basis of worship. The jinn are worshipped in private while the gods are worshipped in public. Um, Now, Al-Jahiz credits the Al-Jahiz credits the pre-Islamic Arabians with believing that the society of jinn constitutes several tribes and groups, which is analogous to pre-Islamic Arabian culture. Now, the jinn could also protect, marry, kidnap, possess, and kill people. But despite being invisible, jinn are considered to have bodies, as described by Zechariah Zakaria Al Qazwini, which I'm not sure if I'm saying that name right. But they are among animals, along with humans, bird and beasts like horses, cattle, wildebeest, birds, and reptiles. And jinn are further known as shapeshifters, often assuming the form of an animal, but they favor the form of a snake. That's their favorite form. But they can take on the form of a human and any other animal that they can. Um, Now, other animals regarded as forms of jinn include scorpions and lizards, but both scorpions and serpents have been venerated in the ancient Near East. Um, when they shift into a human form, however, they are said to stay partly animal, and they are not fully human. Although the power of jinn usually exceeds those of humans, it is conceivable that a man could kill a jinn in single combat, but they are feared for attacking without being seen. But some sources even speak of killed jinn leaving behind a carcass similar to either a serpent or a scorpion. Um, Now, poetry and soothsaying, despite that they were often feared or inspired all, the jinn were also pictured to befriend humans or have romantic feelings for them. According to common Arabian belief, the pre-Islamic soothsayers, philosophers, and poets were inspired by the jinn in itself. The Arabian poet Al-Ashah is said to have gotten his inspiration for his poetry by a friend named Michel, and further calls him as his jinn brother. Similarly, the poet Thabit, who later converted to Islam and became known as the poet of the Prophet, referred to his jinn friend as his sharp-sighted brother from the jinn. The relationship between jinn and humans can also be romantic in nature, but according to one famous Arabian author and story, the jinn Manzur fell in love with a human woman called Haba. He is supposed to have taught her the art of any healing. Okay, hold on here. Like I said, I don't want my food to get cold. Now, the mutual relationship between jinn and humans is different than that of a jinn and a soothsayer. The soothsayer is presented as someone who is totally controlled by the jinn entering. Now, the soothsayer was consulted to reveal hidden information or settle disputes, as it was believed the jinn speaking through them revealed hidden knowledge. Now, the jinn had been called an integral part of the Muslim tradition, or faith, completely accepted in official Islam, and they are prominently featured in folklore stories. Now, the medieval and modern scholars have studied the consequences implied by their existence, legal status, the possible relations between them and mankind, especially in questions of marriage and property. In the Quran, the jinn are approximately mentioned 29 times. Exclusively in the Meccan surahs. Now, the Quran assumes that the audience is familiar with the subject without elaborating on the jinn much further. According to the Quran, 51 through 56, 57, Muhammad was sent as a prophet to both human and jinn communities, and prophets and messengers were sent to both communities. Now, throughout the Quran, the humans and jinn appear frequently as a pair, designating their equal status in regards of their creation and rejecting that jinn share divinity with the Creator. Now, the term, now the term INS derives from Anisa, which means to be familiar with and refers to recognizable familiar human beings. Now, in contrast, the term jinn refers to foreign, invisible, or unknown um, God dang it. Okay, anthro, anthropomorphic beings, which are nonetheless subject to the same considerations as the former. Now they were both created to worship God, because they were supposed to worship God from free will, but they are both able for good and evil deeds. Um, the jinn are like humans, rational beings formed of nations. Um, the Surah Al Jinn is about the revelation to jinn. The same surah mentions righteous jinn on one hand and malicious jinn on the other. The jinn can neither harm nor benefit humans, for they are occupied without looking after themselves in their own place in the cosmos. Um, this is this is a notable contrast to demons and devils in the Judeo Christian tradition. Um, Now the Quran does not condemn the jinn as a source of harm, but mistaken them for beings deserving the cultic veneration. The jinn and humans are blamed for ascribing divine attributes to another creature, the jinn to themselves, and humans to the jinn. Um, Now, in the Quran account, despite their similarities, there are important differences between the two species. Um, Now, whereas humans are made from clay or dirt, the jinn were created from smokeless fire, which is possibly the reason why they are credited with some extraordinary abilities, such as ability transforming and ascending into the air like devils. Um, despite some despite superhuman powers, the jinn occupy no fundamentally different um, um, a different position in the Quran than humans. Like humans, the jinn have no knowledge. Like humans, the jinn have no knowledge of the future, but like humanity, the jinn face a, epistemic limitations regarding the hidden occult, and they have to rely on God's messengers and face judgment. Um, Now, um, in the Quran interpretation, the term jinn can be used in a couple of different ways. One, a specific invisible being, offspring of Abu Jan, considered to be along with humans, accountable for their deeds, and they were created out of fire and air. Two, any object that cannot be detected by human sensory organs, including angels, devils, and the spiritual interior of human beings. Um, Now, the belief in jinn is not included among the 6 articles of Islamic faith as the belief in angels are. Um, Nonetheless, many Muslim scholars, including the Hanbali scholar Ibn and the other scholar called Ibn Hazm, they believe that they are essential to the Islamic faith since they are not mentioned since they are mentioned in the Quran. It's generally accepted by the majority of Muslim scholars that jinn can possess individuals. Now, this um, is considered to be part of the doctrines of the people of the Sunnah in the tradition of Ash'ari. Um, the Now the Athari scholars Ibn and Ibn Qayyim agree on this matter. Now, from among the Sunni scholars of theology, only the Maturidis seems to debate possession, and they deemed the jinn impossible. They deemed the jinn possession impossible. Now, um, also while we're here, I want to throw out that this is one of my 2 YouTube channels that I have. Um, I also have another YouTube channel called RBW King. Um, you can also feel free to check that out. Um, so this is one of them. So this is Rusty. This channel is called Rusty the King. The other one's called RBW the King. RBW King. I've been doing live streams. I've been doing live streams a lot more on my other channel, trying to get to know a fan base. Um, you can check out either channel if you want. Um, now, Al Murtaridi focuses on the dynamics between the jinn and humans based on the Quran 72:6. He states that seeking refuge among the jinn increases fear and anxiety, however, not because of the jinn, but due to the psychological dependence of the individual towards external powers. By that, he refers to seeking refuge among the jinn as a form of shirk, due to the reliance on a created thing instead of God. Um, Now, regarding the interpretation between humans and jinn, scholars such as Al Zamak Ashari. Not like I said, I don't know if I'm saying these names right because I don't speak a lot of Arabic names. Um, he also uses rational arguments to reject the possibility of a jinn possession. But in his book, in his part of the book of the Quran, Al Kasharif discusses his rejection of the possibility that jinn can harm or possess humans. Um, Zamak Shari also said in his portion of the book, Quran 275, that driven to madness by Satan's evil jinn, touch was something he thinks is an Arabic expression to describe someone who acted in a weird manner, which he considers is not a condition where a person is possessed by jinn, but rather an abnormal psychological behavior. Um, Although jinn frequently appear in hagiographic Sufi literature and their existence is never doubted, they do not play a major role in the Sufi cosmology. Because of their similarities to humans, they function neither as a model to follow like angels nor tempters of the lower self like Satan, and they mostly feature in poetic anecdotes. Um, Now, the jinn are obligated to follow divine law, like the Sharia law, as derived from the Quran by Muslim jurists. Now, thus the jinn are considered, along with humans, to be mukallaf, which I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Now, the believers among the jinn are called Muslim jinn. Since both creations must perform the required prayers, salah, Muslim jurists debated if one is allowed to perform the prayer behind the jinn. Now, the Shablai cites 2 Hamalite scholars who regard this as permissible without hesitation. Um, since Muhammad was sent to jinn and humans, both are mukallaf and subject to the command to pray. Um, since humans and the jinn are capable of procreation, Muslim jurists dealt with the issue of permissibility of intercourse between these 2 types of creatures. Now, some hadiths, though considered fabricated by some Mahadith scholars, they push the necessity for an explanation. Now, the hour will come when the children of jinn will become among you. Among you are those who are expatriated, and this, he explained, meant crossed with the jinn. Now, although there are recorded cases of purported human and jinn relationships, most Muslim jurists agree that such a relationship is not permissible. Now, even those scholars who allowed such relationships still consider them undesirable. The makra, offspring of human-jinn relationships, are nonetheless usually considered to be gifted and talented people with special abilities. The jinn, also known as Albanian, Hindi, Bosnian, Turkish, and Sin or Dzin, were adopted by later Islamic culture. Now, since the Quran affirms their existence, although depictions are categorized in literal tradition, folklore, and greater tradition, which is often the Islamic culture, for research purposes, both depictions are largely the same. Um, Now, the Quran does not consider mythological beings to be doubles, but entities erroneously ascribed divine power to. Now, therefore, the jinn are considered a third class of invisible beings, often neutral or morally ambiguous, but they are not consequently equated with the double. Now, Islam allowed to integrate local beliefs about spirits and deities from Iran, Africa, Turkey, and India into a monotheistic framework without demonizing them. Um, an example of this can be seen in the writings of the Sultan, who treated Shiva and Parvati as created beings and casts the Suras and the Suras and the Asuras into the roles of the jinn in Islamic tradition. Now, besides local deities, the existence of purely malevolent spirits is also acknowledged. Thus, the jinn exist alongside other mythological entities such as demons and fairies. Um, the moral altitude of the jinn is usually associated with their religion, but good jinn are usually considered Muslim or Islam, whereas unbelieving jinn were tempted by the devils and they are called kafir jinn or jinn kafir. Now, besides Islamic culture, they could also practice Christianity and Judaism. Um, the good jinn might teach people moral lessons and might be benevolent or aid spiritual persons such as the shamans in Central Asia or spiritual healers in Senegal. Um, the Mahdiya, the Mahdiha, Esemmel's studies in 1940 in Anatolia mentions the belief that spiritually gifted people can act as intermediaries between humans and jinn. Um, Now, most of the time, the jinn are believed not to interfere with humans and they live mostly in desolate or abandoned places. Now, this is, for example, evident from the Turkish phrase, in sin tap oy no yor. It is only when they are angered or disturbed, for example, if their children are trodden upon or hot water thrown at them, um, that they take revenge on humans. For this reason, Muslims utter Duster, meaning permission, before doing something which might accidentally hurt the jinn, such as sprinkling hot water on public grounds or into bushes, so that present jinn are advised to leave the place. Um, Now, angered or straightforwardly able-mannered jinn could hurt people by inflicting physical damage and causing illness, or taking control over a human's body. Now, a human can be controlled by a jinn under certain circumstances. Now, the individual needs to be in a state of weakness, um, preferably mental weakness. Now, feelings of insecurity, mental instability, unhappy love, and depression, being tired from the soul, are forms of the Diya Afia. In that case, it is believed that an exorcism is required to save the person from the assaulting jinn. And to protect oneself from the jinn, many Muslims wear amulets with the name of God engraved on it, but the jinn are also said to be scared of iron and wolves. Um, um, hold um, Okay, so the jinn creature and the magical realism genre introduced into Turkish literature by Tekin in 1983. Who and basically the jinn uses magical elements known from pre-Islamic and Islamic and Anatolian lore. Since the 1980s, this genre has become prominent in Turkish literature. The story by Tekin deals with folkloric and religious belief in a rationalized society. Um, Now, contrary to the neutral to positive depiction of jinn in Tolkien's novels, since 2004, the jinn have become a common trope in Middle Eastern horror films, especially Wishmaster. Um, um, Now, the presentation of jinn usually combines Quranic with oral and cultural beliefs about the jinn. Out of 89 films, 59 have direct references to jinn as the antagonist. 12 views of other sorts of demons or other types of horror, such as the impending apocalypse, hauntings, or ghosts, constitute only 14 films. The popularity of the jinn as a choice of monster can best be explained by their affirmation in the Quran, but they are still a popular trope today. A study from 2020 shows that jinn are still the favorite horror element among teenagers, but the jinn further feature in Iranian horror film movies. Um, oh shit, hold on. Now, though discouraged by some teachers of modern Islam, cultural beliefs about jinn remain popular among the Muslim societies and their understanding of cosmology and anthropology. Now, the affirmation on the existence of jinn as sapient creatures living along with humans is still widespread in the Middle Eastern world, including Egypt and West Africa. Now, mental illnesses are often attributed to the jinn possession. Who knows if that's even true? Since modern times, the jinn were often portrayed in a more negative light. After the failure of the rebellion against the East India Company, the Muslim elite regarded the jinn veneration in India as a superstitional belief, and it hinders the common people to instigate military power. Now, similarly, the Deobandi movement, although not denying the reality of the jinn, mostly depicts the jinn as a malevolent being who needed to be avoided or exorcised. In modern Iran, evil jinn are often substituted by the devils. Now, similarly, in many modern tales, the term jinn is used for dib, meaning demon, causing a shift in meaning. Nonetheless, traditional beliefs in jinn remains popular in Islamic culture. The negative evaluations of the jinn are not static, but rather entangled with traditional and also positive depictions of the jinn. Now there is a survey here, according to a survey undertaken by the Pew Research Center in 2012. Um, this is the percentage of Muslims who affirm a belief in the existence of the jinn. Morocco, 86% believe that they believe of the jinn. They believe in the jinn. 84% of Bangladesh. 84% of Bangladesh believe that the jinn exist. 77% in Pakistan, 70% in Afghanistan, 63% in Turkey, 55% in Iraq, 53% in Indonesia, 47% in Thailand, 36% in Bosnia, and 15% in Central Asia. The amount of Muslims believing in the jinn from Bosnia is higher than the general European average of 30%, although only 21% believe in sorcery, and 13% said that they would wear a talisman for protection against the jinn. Now, 12% supports offerings and appeal given to the jinn. Sleep paralysis is understood as a jinn attack by many sleep paralysis sufferers in Egypt, and they are discovered by a Cambridge neuroscience study that Jamal Simons Rudolph, Jamal and Hinton back in 2013. The study found that as many as 48% of those experiencing sleep paralysis in Egypt believe it to be an assault by the jinn. Almost all of these sleep paralysis sufferers, 95%, would recite verses from the Quran during sleep paralysis to prevent future jinn attacks. In addition, it's some 9% would increase their daily Islamic prayer salawat to get rid of these assaults by the jinn. Now, the sleep paralysis is generally associated with great fear in Egypt, especially if it's believed to be supernatural in origin. Now, similarly, the European patients with a Muslim background often attribute mental illness to the jinn. Now, most common attributions to jinn are symptoms of hallucination and psychotic symptoms, but they can also include mood disorders, obsessive compulsive disorder, the Capgras syndrome, and epilepsy. It's been noted that not all Muslims who believe in jinn believe that they can possess people, but furthermore, belief in possession is not limited to Muslims. Now, contrary to the assumption that higher education is proportional to disenchantment, belief in the jinn possession may remain intact even after medical graduation. Now, although there are very few visual representations of the jinn in Islamic art, when they do appear, it is usually related to a specific event or individual jinn. Um, the visual representations of jinn appear in manuscripts, and their existence is often implied um, in works of in architectural by the presence of apotropaic devices like serpents, which are intended to ward off evil spirits. Lastly, King Solomon is illustrated very often with jinn as the commander of an army that included them. Um, Now, in addition to these the representations of the jinn in its vicinity to kingship, there were also architectural references to jinn throughout the Islamic world. In the citadel of Aleppo, the entrance gate Bab al-Hayat made references to the jinn in the stone relief carvings of serpents. Likewise, the water gate at Haran housed two copper sculptures of the jinn, serving as talismans to ward off snakes and the evil jinn in the form of snakes. Along these depictions of the jinn found at the Aleppo citadel, the depictions of the jinn can be found in the Soljuk Palace. There are a phenomenal range of creatures that can be found in the eight-pointed tiles of the seal of Solayman device. Among these were the jinn that belonged among the Solomon's army, and as Solomon claimed to have control over the jinn. So did the Rum Seljuk Sultan that claimed to be the Solayman of his time. In fact, one of the most common representations of the jinn are alongside or in association with King Solomon. It was thought that King Solomon had a very close ties to the jinn and even had control over many of them. The idea that a great and just ruler commands jinn was also extended to other emperors, such as Alexander the Great. Now, given this association, the jinn were often seen with Solomon in a princely or kingly context, such as the small animal-like jinn sitting beside King Solomon or on his throne, illustrated in an illuminated manuscript, which was written back in the 13th century. Hold on here. Okay, hold on. So in the Book of Wonders, compiled in the 14th century of Al Hassan, there are many illustrations of various supernatural beings like demons, jinn, the evil eye, devils, Lilith, and celestial spirits, etc. Now each celestial spirit is referred to as a king of the jinn, represented alongside his spiritual helpers and alongside the corresponding talismanic symbols. Now, for instance, the Red King of Tuesday was depicted in the Book of Wonders as a sinister form astride a lion. In the same illustration, he holds a severed head and a sword because the Red King of Tuesday was aligned with Mars, the god of war. Or basically, the god of war was Ares. Basically, in Muslim culture, actually not Muslim, Greek mythology. Alongside that, there were illustrations of the Gold King and the White King. Now, aside from the 7 kings of the jinn, the Book of Wonders included an illustration of Huma, or the fever. Huma was depicted as a three-headed and as embracing the room around in order to capture someone and bring on a fever in them. Now, the jinn had an indirect impact on Islamic art through the creation of talismans that were alleged to guard the bearer from the jinn and were enclosed in leather and included the Quranic verses. Um, it's not unusual for those talismans to be inscribed with separated Arabic letters, because the separation of those letters was thought to positively affect the potency of the talisman overall. An object that was inscribed with the word of Allah was thought to have the power to ward off evil from the person who obtained the object. Now, though many of these objects also had astrological signs, depictions of prophets, or religious narratives. Um, Now, the jinn might be invoked along with demons and devils for means of sorcery, incantation, protection, or divination. Now, the soothsayers are credited with the ability to ask jinn about things of the past, since their lives are believed to last longer than that of any human. Um, the common belief regarding sorcery and commanding jinn are attested in the Ibn al-Nadim's the Kitab al-Farist, since he locates such practices not as a branch of science or philosophy, but rather in a chapter about stories and fables. Now, the author might not have believed in the efficiency of sorcery himself, but he reports that the art of commanding jinn and demons is traced back to Solomon and Jamshid. Now, the first who would have practiced a lawful method of incantation is supposed to be Abu Nasr Ahmad during the Umayyad period. Now, Ibn Nadim explains that lawful and unlawful subjugating of the jinn and demons are as distinct. While the former controls the jinn by the power of God's divine names, the latter pleases demons and devils by prohibited offerings and sinful acts. Now, according to Al-Jahiz, Ibn Halal is said to have the power to summon demons and jinn, and further claimed to have married a daughter of Satan and basically gave birth to a child. Now, there is evidence that subjugation of spirits and the jinn and demons were also cultivated by various Islamic authorities. It was considered a reliable Al-Tabasi, who was considered a reliable scholar of hadith and pious ascetic, wrote an extensive treatise on subjugating demons and jinn. According to Al-Qazwini, it was well known that the jinn obeyed Al-Tabasi. He gives an example that Al-Tabasi demonstrated the jinn to the famous scholar Ghazali, who saw them as shadows on the wall. He professes that jinn only obey when the individual turns away from the temptations of creation and devoting oneself towards God. Now, and basically, the Al-Shamil gives detailed instructions for preparations of various incantations, unlike, for example, the writings of Al-Razi. The Al-Shamal has no direct link to Hellenistic or Hermetic magic or philosophy. Now, magic was also used in the Ottoman Empire, as evident from the talismanic skirts of Murad III. Now, related to the occult traditions in Islamic culture is the belief in the seven kings of the week, also known as higher spirits or angels, or lower spirits and demons. Now, these beings are, for example, invoked for the preparation of magic squares. Now, this belief is attested by the Book of Wonders. It contains artistic depictions of several superhuman beings, like the demons, the jinn, the evil eye, fever, and Lilith, etc. Some of these beings indicate that the work connects Hebrew, Christian, and Islamic magical traditions together. Now, the original work is attributed to al-Baqi, who founded a system of astrological magic based on Neoplatonic thought. Although many pages are damaged, it is possible to reconstruct their meanings from the Ottoman Empire copies. Each king is depicted with helpers and associated talismanic symbols. In comparative mythology and historical context studies, the Quran study scholars discuss the relationship between Islamic notions of jinn and the earlier Jewish and Christian ideas of supernatural beings of preternatural creatures, especially those of angels, spirits, and demons. It is widely It is widely agreed that the belief in jinn was a common element of the culture out of which the Quran came. One question has concerned the degree to Quranic jinn might be compared to fallen angels in Christian tradition, although issues with this view are that jinn are not identified as angels and that descriptions of angels do not involve their flying up to the sky to eavesdrop on heavenly secrets, unlike the jinn who do so in Surah 72. Patricia Crone notes that, like jinn, the demons of the Testament of Solomon ascend to the firmament and eavesdrop on heavenly secrets, as did demons of the Zoroastrian cosmology, who, in addition, encounter a heavenly defense system, as did the Islamic jinn. Similar statements are also found in the Talmud and the 8th century Scholion of Theodore Barkani. Now, counterparts to Quranic jinn have been identified in the Book of Jubilees, where spirits created by God associated with fire, having an identified leader, as Mastama, they may either aid or harm humans and suffer a similar fate as the jinn. Now, the Shadim of the Tanakh are said to resemble jinn. Like the jinn, among a class of beings of Jewish mythology, belief, and etc., there is a tradition of ritual exorcism and negotiations that differ from that of traditional Jewish culture of spirit possession associated with the ghosts. Now, the jinn have also been compared to preternatural beings called Janai in inscriptions from Palmyra, as well as a broader late antique demonologies. There is other things if you want to look at them on this site. Let's go zoom in here. This is also other pages you can look at to study the jinn on, which I might do that later. So this is the ending of the video. I'm gonna eat my food before it gets cold and finish up watching Law and Order. I just started season 11 of Law and Order. There's 26 seasons, I think. I've also been bouncing back and forth between Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live also has 50 seasons, which is gonna be a long time to finish. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And like I said, if you want to check out my other YouTube channel called called RBW King, you feel free to check that out. Let me know what you guys think of this live stream video and what you guys. I'm looking for any recommendations to talk about stuff. Just let me know what you guys want me to talk about. But this wasn't too bad. This wasn't too bad for my first live stream on this channel. Basically the live stream is basically getting to know my audience. That's basically what the live streams are for, is getting to know people and seeing where everybody comes from. So if you like the video, you can get the video, like, and subscribe to my channel, Rusty the King here. You can also check out my other YouTube channel, RBW King. Make sure to like and subscribe over there too if you want to see any other videos. But I'll let you guys go, and I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll be back next week.